Welcome to Mr. B's Ukulele.
Hello and welcome to part 3 of the Shogun Total War Expert Mode Dickytorial Season 2 review. In this episode we are going to delve into some vital campaign and battle stats for both players before looking at that controversial ending for Lord Dicky and asking just how did that happen. So let's not waste any more time and let's delve straight into the long awaited Mr. B's battle stats. I've got 2 pages of stats to share with you today. First of all, we have the battle stats page itself, which looks primarily at how we both did in the battles. Then we have the timeline, which is effectively an overview of statistics on the campaign screen. So let's start with the battle stats page. Now there is a lot to look at here, so feel free to pause it so you can really enjoy those stats in your leisure, but I will talk you through the main aspects that stand out for me here. Now the thing that stands out first of all is the total number of battles comparison, with Dicky fighting only 48 battles compared to my 69. He also wins a lot less proportionally, as we both lose nearly the same amount, but his percentage of battles won is only 65% to my 77%. Let me just quickly explain. I'm including his defeats, the times when we abandon territories, and also including his victories, the times when we attack a territory and the AI withdraws with no casualties on either side. Now I found the difference in percentages here of battles won really surprising, because when you watch the series, and as we've already discussed, Dicky does so well in so many of his early battles, and it's me who's blundering around with archers with no arrows and getting lost in the fog as we saw in the last episode. Yet whilst I make mistakes early on, once I get going I steamroller over lots of the enemy territories and really start to take a lot of successes. Whereas towards the end, Dicky becomes mired in a series of huge battles and some rather big defeats. In the last 4 episodes alone, Dicky loses 4 epic battles. Well, maybe not epic on that one, but you get the picture. Dicky is stuck fighting these huge battles, not counting his little rebellion in Aki that we just saw there, and in his last 5 battles of the game, in episodes 31 to 33, and by the way, Kohai accidentally released 2 episodes twice, so there are 33 videos in the series, not 35, just to save any confusion there. In those last 5 battles of the whole series, Dicky loses 3 times, and both he and the AI take losses of around 2,000 men. Now this run of battles at the end for Dicky has a huge effect on the stats, which is why a hugely superior start on the battlefield compared to my own campaign ends with our stats looking very similar in many ways. Despite fighting and winning a lot less than me, Dicky lost a very similar number of men in battle, and killed an equally similar number of men too, so those late battles with those huge numbers of men really did have an impact on his stats. Despite only fighting 48 battles to my 69 as I said, we both end up with a similar kill ratio, with my kill ratio of 1.3 men killed in every battle for every man lost, and Dicky's at a remarkably similar 1.4 men killed in battle for every man lost. We also have very similar levels of genius and stupidity on the battlefield and enjoy some incredible victories and some rather epic failures with similar margins between our best and worst battles, which we can see at the bottom of the stats page here. Just to explain those stats to make sure they're clear to everyone, what they are saying there is that in my best battle I lost just 79 men to 590 killed of the enemy, and Dicky lost 172 men to a staggering 867 killed of the enemy, and the defeat stats just read the same but the other way round. Now the one thing that does stand out again here are the comparative winning streaks as well, with Dicky's best run of victories lasting only 10 battles compared to my 18, again highlighting the fact that I went into battle far more often and was far more aggressive on the campaign screen. Now to the side of the battle page, the stats page rather, we see the battles by clan column, and the interesting thing here I think is the fact that my battles are rather evenly spread out, more or less, whilst Dicky's show that he fought a prolonged war against Westigi and only short campaigns against everyone else. I think this again highlights the caution with which Dicky waged war and his reluctance to start war against other clans, whereas I went about more systematically defeating clans one after the other. That conclusion is supported by our second page of stats, the timeline, which gives you an overview of how our comparative campaigns developed. Down the middle we have the years, with every 2 years shown in white and a few key years in between shown in yellow. Then on the left we have a count of how many regions I held at each point and also which generals I defeated and when, and on the right the same for Dicky. Now, I've only put in victories over generals when the clans were completely destroyed by either me or Dicky, so not counting when one AI player defeated another. The one exception is when I killed Imagawa, which I included because I defeated him from my part of the map, but of course he still had territories in the south which he retreated to. Effectively speaking, I felt I destroyed his clan, but I have put that in a different colour to make the point it wasn't quite on the same level. So what stands out here the most? Well, two things I think. First, we can see very quickly how I progressed on the campaign screen, fighting one clan after the other in quick succession as I discussed just now. This meant that my number of territories expands from 3 in 1532 steadily up to 24 in 1544. Then I make two huge leaps forward, expanding up to 31 territories by 1546 and 40 territories, and final victory by 1547. You can also see the systematic way I defeat all 5 enemy generals one after the other, with Shimazu only surviving at the end because the game finished. In contrast, we see that the stats support what we said earlier about Dicky being too cautious on the battlefield.
But yeah, I play too defensively. I'm too cautious.
Yeah.
Despite making a seemingly better start than I do and holding 5 territories instead of 3 in 1532, he only progressed to 9 territories by 1542 and actually dipped down to 8 in 1544, the same year I expanded to 24 territories. This then is where the real difference is between the two campaigns, and we can see why Dicky ended up facing such a difficult AI in Lord Shimazu at the end. If you spend this long in the game developing your own territory, you are giving the AI time to do the same, so it becomes a battle of titans at the end, which is truly a hard slog in this game, as Dicky finds out to his dismay. You can see that from 1546, Dicky starts making some really good progress, expanding to 24 territories by 1552, and taking out 2 clans in that period. But by then it's too little, too late. Shimazu has become all-powerful, and Dicky has an impossibly tough fight on his hands at the end of the game. It is not to say that he couldn't have won from there. He was very unlucky to lose his general at the end, and I'll talk about that in a moment. Could he have won from that position? I actually think maybe he could have done, but it would have required at least another 10 to 15 epic battles of 1 to 2,000 men a battle. And as we see from his final victory tally, each of those battles at the end is just such a lottery. Battles of that size really can go either way. Dicky's losses were not catastrophic, and if he lost 500 men in a battle, he was getting about that many back in reinforcements each turn. In all honesty, it could have gone either way had it carried on, but I think it would have been truly a hard slog for him, and with Mori still a thorn in his side right to the end, I think the odds were always against him. So let's finish by looking at that controversial ending, and the final fall into disgrace for Lord Dicky. Now this really is tricky to understand. Let's look at it in 2 parts. A quick analysis of how Dicky lost his general, and then a quick look at what happened to his heir. So here we are in the battle. It's the final episode and we're fighting Lord Shimazu in Isa. Dicky starts the battle well, but then all begins to unravel and he finds himself heading into retreat. No problem there, losses are not critical. He goes on to lose 525 to 109 men, but he had a similar margin of victory in his previous battle, so at this stage the losses are balancing out and it wouldn't have been the end of his campaign. What is critical here is that he loses his general, and when his forces start to rout, he speeds up the game, which is unfortunately his big mistake. Now in fairness, I do this myself in some battles, and I also leave my general in the thick of the action on occasion, so I'm not saying Dicky made a huge blunder on that level. It just was very unfortunate. However, what I don't do at all is leave my general fighting a losing battle and then speed up the game. If your general's losing, get him out of the fight, get him safely retreated, and then speed up the retreat if you want to. And that's the key here, and that is Dicky's big blunder. But even then, he has 3 men left in his general's unit. Now, in some battles I've fought with my general, I've fought with him down to just 1 man left, and it's often your general who's the last man to die in that unit. However, that's not always the case, and you can't rely on that being the way of it. And on this occasion, Dicky comes a cropper from this. We don't see the "your general has been killed" message, because Dicky speeds it up and it quickly gets to the end battle screen, which makes it even more of a shock for Dicky and Kohai when they return to a blank campaign screen and wonder what has happened. So, an unfortunate death in battle, but surely that shouldn't have been the end of the clan and the whole campaign. Didn't Dicky have heirs? Hadn't he been producing the goods as the game progressed? We can see here that he did in fact have heirs, and at least one of them had come of age, with potentially another one about to. So what on earth happened? Is this a glitch in the game like Kohai thinks it is, or is something else at work here? Well, I think maybe it wasn't a glitch. Now there are 2 ways you can lose an heir in this game. Through battle defeats, where you lose a general, and also through ninja or geisha attacks. Now Dicky doesn't pay much attention to his heirs throughout the campaign, so I haven't been able to track down which general was the heir who had come of age, but he will have been one of Dicky's generals hidden somewhere in the game in one of his armies. Now Dicky loses generals in a couple of battles at various points in the game, and as we are seeing here in a clip from episode 26, he also has at least one get assassinated. As we never see Dicky check the name of his heir, I can't give you an ultimate answer as to what happened to him. Now normally you don't have to worry about assassinations like this unless you see a geisha assassin pop up, then you know you're in trouble. But it's not impossible for a highly trained ninja to kill a low level heir, as in one who hasn't got much experience in battle. So what I believe is that either Dicky lost his heir in battle without realising it, or else he left his general unattended, and therefore the general didn't gain experience in battle, and then might have been easy prey for one of the ninjas who was stalking Dicky's generals throughout the second half of the campaign. So it's a mystery that we will never fully know the answer to, but one in which there was certainly a big element of bad luck and just a few small mistakes made on Dicky's part. As for the second heir, I believe he just hadn't quite come of age, so does not feature in the analysis, which means Dicky died heirless and lost the game in a cruel and terrible moment. Sadly, that is both the joy and the terrible anguish that is experienced when you play Shogun Total War. And that's about it for Mr. B's Shogun Total War Expert Mode Dickytorial Season 2 review. A huge thank you to Kohai for both hosting the competition and putting the whole series together. I hope viewers have enjoyed watching it as much as we enjoyed making it, and I will leave you with some fantastic sound bites from the great man himself. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Units without arrows, a strong distrust of cavalry, and units that rout at the slightest drop of blood. Expert mode really is putting Mr. B to the test. Legendary swordsman and crack ukulele player Mr. B took on the might of Lord Hojo and Lord USG and won.
Can you read all the Maltesers?
It's not the size of your army, it's what you do with it that counts.
Mr. B is in a battle of force and wits with Lord USG.
Victory we needed.
While Kai and Mr. B break out the snacks and await the tide of red, Mr. York tends to his farms and his bull cues. Will Dicky's passive attitude come back later on to bite him? Mr. B is on another roll it seems, and his strategy is clearly paying off. Let's see if Mr. York is celebrating with lemon slices tomorrow on Dickytorial Season 2. It's a fierce battle on Mr. B's front lines, generals being assassinated and a stubborn Lord Murray pushing back against Mr. B.
Yeah, but you're going to have to decide what you're going to do sooner or later. You can't just sit on your laurels and wait for everybody else.
The year is 1550, and Lord Dicky is in trouble. It's 1551, and Lord Dicky is in a right pickle. What he really needs is some wise words from Mr. B, but instead he has an assassin tracking another of his generals. What a game! Mr. B has taken control of Japan by 1547. Expert mode well and truly chinned.